if you were to be at this point right now, so we run all the denoising, we've done all the pre-processing, and this allows you to specify which kind of analysis you want to do for your second level, right? So like I said, there's a few different options. Seed to voxel, ROI to ROI, those come bundled together. Same with voxel to voxel and ICA networks. And dynamic ICA is its own thing. For the analysis types, if you can see that, for a typical resting state connectivity analysis, so no task, you would select functional connectivity weighted GLM. If you did have a task, GPPI would be a valid approach that you could take. And I'll show you how those conditions are set up in a little bit. Okay, so all these defaults are fine. And then the seeds and sources, you can select all of them. And the default is to select virtually all of them. But if you want, let's say, would be a good one to deselect. MEDFC, for whatever reason, you want to remove that, simply select that, and it's in this bin over here that's not selected.
Do you know if when they do that, they sort of weight it by ROI region size to account for like differences in SNR between your two series?
Good question. I don't think they do. Yeah. Or another way to put that is, would they weight it like a probabilistic Alice, right? I don't think that they do that. Yeah. I could be wrong, but I haven't seen anything in the documentation about that. Yeah.
Can you also put custom ROIs into here? Like back in the ROI stuff, can you say like, I want to look at this?
Yeah. Let me see here. Another good question. So if you had your own ROI file, and I'm not sure exactly how you need to construct it, right?
Does that have to be like an MNI space?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm thinking, like, a lot of these aliases are XML files, right? So if you want to specify your own custom atlas, you'd have to make sure it's in that format. Yeah, but this is where you would add it. And then those particular labels should be available to you at the first level. Yeah. Okay. And we can look through all the subjects. So any one of these things that is highlighted, it's going to show you, it's going to give you a preview for that subject, what the connectivity map is going to look like. So not surprisingly, if we look at something like visual medial network, it's going to be most highly correlated in the visual system and possibly some other regions as well. Now you'll notice there's some spots and places where you wouldn't expect it to be. And we're assuming that those should be cleaned up once we do the correction, right? All right. If you click on results for both seed to voxel and ROI to ROI, like I said, this is going to show you the map representing what the correlation map looks like for that seed with every other voxel in the brain. This is really for display purposes right here. This is just a P uncorrected map. As you'll see in the Results Explorer, we have more control over how we want to correct for multiple comparisons. But this is the basic map. Again, you can see this group average for each of these different atlas ROIs that you specified. So frontal pole right, frontal pole left. This is for all the subjects. And if you click on an individual voxel within that, you also get a biased ROI, basically. A biased ROI analysis showing you all the connectivity values for all the subjects. Let's see here. These effects that you're able to look at. So this represents, in the left, these are different contrasts you can select from. all subjects is a one sample t-test. It's a default that's output by the CONN toolbox. So across all 26 subjects, where is connectivity significant for that particular ROI or that particular seed? Now, if you want to specify anything else, any other kind of contrast, if I go back to setup here, I had created a couple of covariates called, let's see here. Maybe at the bottom, yeah. At covariate second level, I created one regressor representing patients and one representing controls. These aren't actually patients and controls. I just randomly selected, say, the first 12 and the last 13. But if, let me just show you how this was actually constructed. Say, test contrast. And here's a vector of zeros. And I simply weight it however I want to create a second level contrast vector. So it's a little confusing. You got to go back to the setup to actually specify this, right? But once you do that, it's then enabled as a contrast you can use at the second level. So let's say this was something like age, right? I'm not going to fill in all of these, but let's say 24, 33, 45, 19. 7 and so on. Those would be things that I could, use as some kind of correlation regressor with the connectivity matrices.
And now these are being applied for individual subjects. If you're 25, you're seeing some of them.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So ideally, if there's a behavioral or some kind of descriptive regressor, I'd have one number per subject.
I'm sorry, I just don't know if I'm misunderstanding, but what are those values constituting, like in that for the age contrast? That's their actual.
Yeah.
You're inputting their actual.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Ideally, you should probably mean center it to be safe, but yeah.
So you have 25 subjects, 4 scans or so. Are
Mhm.
you going to have 100 length contrast vector, or are you going to have 25?
You would have 4 separate 25 contrast vectors.
That you have to input individually.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
I know. But once you're done with it,
Right.
you're done, right?
That's the other thing I was going to ask. So
Yeah.
next time I load a new study up,
Mhm.
is it going to save the contrast that I just put in, or does it save the contrast like project specific?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. There should be a way to... Okay, you can import covariate data from a file.
So is that something you can do in using an Excel?
Yeah, and you probably need to save it out in MATLAB somehow. I could look into it and see exactly how it's being saved, because it has to be saved in some kind of structured format. But once you have that, you should be able to import it. But not sure what kind of format that is exactly. I'll look at that during lunch, because it'd be useful, yeah, for sure. In any case, once you have that, so I just defined a regressor here, and then I have it right here, right? Okay, those are just random values. It's not going to mean anything. I only gave it 5, meaningful values, so it's throwing a complaint here. But if I fill out the entire vector with the values that I actually collected, actually made sense, that would then show you where they're accounting for variance in any of those voxels. Something a little bit more complicated, let's say I had my patients and controls, right? So I have, I think, 12 subjects and patients, 13 subjects and controls. I want to do a group comparison between the two. So how do I see which connectivity maps are significantly different from each other? I would highlight both, and then, let's see here. if you highlight both and then you click on this menu right here, it gives you every possible combination you can do for those two regressors. So if we want to see where patients are greater than controls, select that, or controls greater than patients. Right? So I can do the same thing by simply changing this contrast vector to 1, -1. Do the same thing. Now you can imagine if I wanted some kind of interaction effect, it'd be the same thing if I had, say, 4 different between subjects variables. I'll get into conditions in a little bit, but I want to show you the actual results right now. Whoops. Okay. You know what? Even though this contrast probably doesn't mean anything, well, do I even see any effects? No. That's not going to be interesting to look at. Okay, I'll go back to all subjects, which is all 26 subjects, one sample t-test, and then click on Results Explorer. Takes a few seconds to load up. So this is your typical glass brain that you would see here. For these connectivity maps, so this isn't looking at any of the graph theory yet. Right? We'll see that with ROI to ROI, voxel to voxel. But for looking at these simple connectivity maps, you can apply a cluster-based correction to them if you want to. Right? Because we have all these correlation values, we've converted them to z-values, and then we have one in each voxel of the brain. We can see where these clusters are significant. So let's see. Really, the only ones that I would recommend that you do, if you're looking at a result like this, would be either cluster size p-FDR corrected or cluster size p-FWE corrected, depending on which one you feel more comfortable with. But they basically do the same thing. Now, this is a typical SPM results window, right? If you wanted to actually see it in SPM, it basically give you the same thing, but just click on SPM, load up your results the same way you would there. You know, I have my same options there, and then, you know, this looks pretty familiar, right? And notice that it should be giving me the same values right here. Does anybody here use SPM? No? Oh, a few people. Yeah. Yeah.
So in CONN it's FDR, and in SPM it's it's the same thing, just selecting the analyzer.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to render it, no need to actually do a surface-based analysis. You just click on the render button, and then everything is mapped onto a surface. I think this uses caret, maybe. Not sure. What? Caret? You used it? Oh, why'd you laugh? Yeah. Anyway, just some options for looking at different ways to render this. The last one I'll do, let's see here. You have a lot of options, not going to go through all of them, obviously. But maybe slice display would also be useful. So, you know, if you wanted some kind of montage, for example, you could do that as well. Anyway, so, you know, we've seen this before. This isn't, you know, too groundbreaking. Where CONN excels is if you wanted to look at these ROI to ROI analyses and voxel analyses. And what you'll see in the first screen is all the nodes highlighted here. The one that's selected, in this case, the Alice, the frontal pole left, is grayed out. And then all the positive connections, all those ROIs are in red, and the size of those nodes is going to represent the strength of that connection, just a visual representation. And blue is going to be for the negative ones as well. So you can select your seed up here if you want to do a quick eyeball of what your results look like. And then looking at the actual target over here, right? So left frontal pole connected to left lateral occipital cortex. It highlights where it is right here. And then it also gives you this generic effect size plot as well. So that's all useful, but if we want to look at this in another view, you can click on graph theory, which will show you that node-connected brain that I mentioned before. Yeah?
And this is all with respect to the one ROI you selected, the one seed region?
Yes. Yeah.
So if you wanted to get like how they're all interconnected to each other, not from one seed, how would you do that?
How they're all interconnected to each other.
Yeah, is that what this is? Am I misunderstanding, or is it like?
That was what you did before.
Okay.
Yeah. All this is going to show you, so this is a network of all the ROIs, right? We could select a subset if we wanted to clean this up a little bit, if you wanted to. But this is looking at all the connections between all of them. And then it's also correcting for the number of tests that have been done. In this case, this one sample t-test, basically everything lights up because, at least one ROI is probably going to be connected to at least one other ROI. But if I wanted to focus on a subset of ROIs, let's say I just want to look at these first four networks here. So default mode, sensory motor, visual, and salience. Right. So this is a little bit cleaned up. It might be a little bit more meaningful depending on your research question. Let's say I'm looking at default mode network and salience network in Alzheimer's patients or MTBI, something like that. These different analysis measures will test for whether that particular analysis measure is significant or not. So like I said, something like local efficiency, if I remove something like the salience network, are these other nodes still robustly connected to each other, right? The thing might be related to that clustering coefficient. That's pretty similar to local efficiency. But basically, you could look back at what each of these different graph measures are to interpret what that means for the particular node that is selected. Now, let's see here. I can view different slices, axial, sagittal, coronal, and so on. Many different options. And then also, if you don't want the entire connectome for the entire brain or all your ROIs, the ones that are just selected here, you can just export that adjacency matrix. Right? Do you remember yesterday we talked about, in graph theory, that resolution parameter? Does that ring any bells? So if you're trying to condense your connectome into just a few modules, right? This isn't exactly the same thing, but it's a similar concept where you're only focusing on a few networks, and so your adjacency matrix is going to be reflecting like a more compressed connectome. Right? Last thing here, so Results Explorer It's similar to what we just looked at with graph theory. It's going to show you a connectome ring with all these different ROIs and how they're connected to each other. It's pretty popular. It's a good figure to have at your disposal. Right, so this text is very small. It's selected all the nodes. You can't really read it. It's probably not that informative. But again, if we want to, say, restrict this to a subset of ROIs, click on this menu up here, manually define subset of ROIs, and then we could only select a handful of these, say, networks. So I'll do a similar thing here. Bump this up. No. Yes. Yeah. So warmer colors are going to represent a positive correlation, and cooler colors a negative correlation. It also tries to segment these according to which network they belong to. So I have different networks, and I have different nodes within that network, right? And these brackets are roughly corresponding to these different networks. So it's really hard to see. It's even hard for me to see on my computer. But you can export this and blow it up, make it a little bit more readable. Now, so what would this mean for for this particular analysis? Again, not much. But if we had a contrast of two different groups, and we saw which networks, which nodes were connected to each other, and pass that certain correction threshold, then we can make some inference about what connections are stronger between groups, or which connections are significantly moderated by task or by some kind of behavioral measure. Right? So, again, this really doesn't differ conceptually too much from everything you've done with a typical fMRI analysis. Right? We still have voxels, we still have corrections we need to do, but now we're just looking at a slightly different aspect of it. We're looking at the connections between all these different nodes, but still correcting for them, still running tests on them. Okay. Questions on any of this? Okay. Let's take a short break. What I want to do is raise your hand if you don't have any data of your own. Okay. So U4, yeah. All right. I'm going to come around to you. We'll get you started with analyzing like a subset of this so that you can still go through this and see what these all mean. I mean, doing this for all 26 subjects is basically going to be the same thing, right?